Hi everyone, this is Linda Walker. I am here with Rick Green, who is the creator and producer of the TotallyADD.com website and the creator and producer of a couple of amazing documentaries on attention deficit disorder, the first one being ADD and Loving It. And it's very well known. It's been aired in pretty much everywhere, the US here in Canada, and you can actually purchase it on his website at TotallyADD.com. I'm here to, Rick was part of a group in the past that's an earlier version of the Focus to Freedom Blueprint Mastery. And I wanted him to be able to tell you, because I know it's difficult to make a decision, to tell you what he got out of it. And so, first of all, Rick, thank you for being here. I know that you took an earlier version of the Focus to Freedom Blueprint Mastery when you took the Grow with the Flow module of the Maximum Productivity Makeover a few years ago. And I wanted you to be able to give us an idea. I remember that it made a difference and that you had mentioned it many times, even in your own, on your own website. I wanted to have an idea of, you know, what was life like for you before you went on and took this program?
So when I took your course, which was, when I took your course several years ago, I have to say, I was a little skeptical going in because the promise was double my productivity. And I knew that I could be very productive. I also knew that at that time I was just not productive anymore, or not nearly as productive. There's that ADHD feeling, so common, feeling of underachieving, that we could be doing more, that a day's gone by and I got an hour's worth of work done. Where did the rest of the day go, with frustrations and distractions and getting hyper-focused on the wrong thing, running out of energy and trying to push through and then making mistakes and having to go back and redo it again and just disheartened. And I think one of the things I got out of very early on in working with you and with working with the other people in the course, which is really the cool part, it's kind of like you're in a support group with people who are all focused on the same thing. Because in a normal support group, you'd have people who are there because their parents or their kids or their spouse or it's work, or they don't have work, or they're scared of medication, whatever. But this was people focused on really becoming productive. And that focus meant I heard stuff from other people that I could use. And I also started to see, like one of the big things I saw was my energy levels throughout the day when it was time for me to do certain things, because I could get locked into, I don't know, writing blogs, and I would try and write one or two in a day, 3 in a day. And by 3 in the afternoon, not realize that my energy level was gone. And as I started to realize, well, maybe I'll stop at 3, then I started to realize as we worked together, what if I stopped at noon? And then it's rather than go till I hit the wall and then try and keep going, or even rather than, which is what I've been doing, or rather than go until I hit the wall, which is kind of a crap way to end your day. That's it, I'm done, right?
Yeah.
To be able to keep going until I was feeling good, I still had energy, and let it go. That was enough today, and really be clear, I got this done and it's good. And it was high quality time. I was focused, my energy level was good, and so on. That was really powerful, because the next morning when I sat down, rather than sit down to a finished blog and one that needed all this work and had mistakes and wasn't clear, I had a great blog, and I could start the next blog the next day, and I'd be coming from that fresh perspective, and so on. And then I discovered, okay, there's other things I can do when I'm done this. And I started to break my day up, not so much in terms of specific tasks necessarily, but there was a time to schedule for where my energy level was, where my focus was, and to be able to schedule in, you know, things that were going to be physical and get me up and out of my chair and over to the bulletin boards and the whiteboards and things like that, or whatever. So that, and even to look at what I was doing and go, you know, I'm setting up to shoot a rant. This is kind of mindless physical activity rather than be doing this at 9 in the morning when my energy, so why don't I wait till the end of the day and I'll set it up and shoot first thing tomorrow in the morning. And so at 3, I'd start setting up the telecue system, which is basically just my computer sitting beside the camera. But I would start doing adjusting the lights, getting the camera ready and the batteries and the cards and all the technical stuff. Do that at the end of the day when it was kind of not a no-brainer, but you know what I mean? It wasn't requiring me to be creative, and that was really powerful. So what I found is I was getting way more done because I wasn't having these wasted days, these days of frustration, these times where I'm just trying so hard to push through. And I'd had those my whole life. And I think that's a hyperfocus thing, a hyperfocus gone wrong. You know, is that I could focus. And I had moments where when I was writing for the Red Green Show or the Frantics or any of the programs I've done, where I could some days write for 8 hours straight, like just continuously. And just, I could go into a Frantics meeting after 2 days of writing and have 15 skits to read. And on Saturday Night Live, you know, now they weren't all great, but they were just, now there were other days where it was not quite like that. But, you know, there was, at the minimum, it was 4, you know, that I could get done. But I never allowed myself to go, yeah, I've got 4 in me today. It's time to go do something else, you know. And that ability now to give myself permission and to understand or be aware of, I don't know what the right term would be, but cognizant of what is my energy level, what needs doing, what's urgent, what would be actually a good break for me now and needs doing. Because often, another thing I would often do is come in and start by, I'll tidy up my desk first. And say, no, do that at 4. And it took a while to realize at the end of the day when if I was pooped, to walk away. It's like, no, rather than just kind of give up now, spend 10 minutes cleaning up your desk now, because it's mindless work. It's satisfying work. It's a visible difference. I mean, when you write, for anybody who works on a computer all day, or anything like this, you don't have the satisfaction of standing back and looking at the cupboards you've built, the house you've painted, the wall you've done, the piece of artwork you've done, the song, you can't listen to it and play it back, this is good, or no, this needs work. There's nothing there at the end of the day. So to be able to do certain physical things around my environment, or getting out, exercising, all of those things. And another thing that came out of it for me was seeing that taking care of myself was important. It was a priority. And that's when I really started to do yoga in the morning on a regular basis. And I'll be honest, it's semi-regular. I did this morning, but it was a shortened version. Yesterday I didn't, Monday I did the full 20 minutes. It varies from day to day, but I started to see how essential that was to me being focused and present. And even more than that, you know, productivity was great, but the biggest thing was actually enjoying what I was doing again. So it wasn't onerous. It wasn't a chore. I didn't come in every morning to sit down with this sense of dread and weight and what do I have to do. By working with my energy levels, I had energy at the end of the day to be with Ava, to be with friends, to recharge, to whatever. And you know, as you trained us in noticing these things, gave us these things that we could distinguish, these distinctions to look for and check in with, that really gave me access to a whole level of, you know, that you just wouldn't find in a productivity book, you know, as opposed to filing everything in the same color file folder and things like that. So what I loved about it too was that, you know, everybody in the course had, I was the only comedy writer, director, producer, right? There were people with very different backgrounds and jobs. People, I think one woman was working from the Department of Motor Vehicles or something. Another was working in a high-tech company out in LA. I actually met him at a conference, at the CHAG conference this year. But there was that wide range of things going on. And everybody seeing other people conquer stuff, seeing other people's solutions, and sometimes being able to go, yeah, that's not me at all. There's nothing that's great, good for them. And I could actually offer a dozen suggestions because I'm a comedy writer. So I had a different perspective than somebody who worked in the Department of Motor Vehicles. And they had a different perspective that I, as a comedy writer, might not have had about productivity, about organizing, about all of those things, even the more logistical side of it. So.
Wow, sounds sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were saying that originally when you heard about the program that I could double your productivity, you were skeptical about that. Would you say that wasn't too that wasn't really something that was out of range, or?
No, I think that happened, and on some days, it was dramatic. It was like, I think I told you once, I think I got 3 times as much done today, because I was used to having days where by the end of the day I'd managed an hour's worth of work and then struggled with a whole bunch of other things, got distracted, and got lost or sidetracked. So no, I think especially when you start to see that you don't have to do everything all in one day, which is, I think, a big problem for people with ADHD. Yeah, I won't start the basement because I need a whole weekend. Well, you could start the basement, but that's a thing that I find very hard to do, because I feel like I need to take a month off and really get the house organized. Yeah, that's never going to happen. And guess what? The house never gets organized. But when I started to create the routine based on my rhythms, based on knowing this is the time for me to do, something kinetic, some action, something as opposed to just the thinking, or something creative and something more logistical in answering letters or whatever it would be, that was then the amount of effort going out, I was twice as productive because I was using far less effort. That was the big thing. So, did I have exactly twice as much done at the end of the week? I don't know about that. I certainly had twice as much done for the amount of energy I was expending. And the good thing was I had energy left over to actually have a life, which was nice.
Very cool. Very cool. Is there anything?
And
go ahead.
And the funny thing is, of course, that I have ADHD, so stuff will fall off the radar for me. I'll forget. And on Monday of this week, I had one of these days where documents kept crashing, PowerPoint thing didn't work. I sent stuff and they couldn't turn track changes off. We couldn't get it onto the website. It was just a day of screaming frustration, and it was so disheartening. And I used to have days like that all the time, and this was such an exception. And I realized, okay, I got hyper-focused. I got locked in. I should have just left it. I actually looked for, help. I went Googling help, turning off track changes on a Mac, Word 2011, right? And I skim read it. I was so upset. Rather than take a breath, take the 3D breath, do 5 minutes of yoga, 10 minutes. No, I don't have time for 5 minutes of yoga. It's that thinking about, like, you're going to drive to Vancouver and you got to get there as soon as possible. Yeah, I got to leave now. Shouldn't you learn how to drive a car? No, I don't have time to learn. I got to get there. So, yeah, the time well spent here. And so for me to not even be able to skim and see the answer was actually there, but it was in the 4th line down, and I just read the first line or two, and then turned out, oh, there's something called a ribbon, not a toolbar. What's the ribbon? I never even. And of course, there. Oh, there it is. Okay. So that happens so rarely now. And there's this kind of balance now that's nice.
Very good. Awesome. So you've answered a lot of the questions I was going to ask. So that's pretty cool. Was there anything else you wanted to add before I shut off the recording?
I think, in course, we're so used to buying a book for $10 or $20 or $30 that when you sign up for a course like this, it's intimidating. You think, am I going to get my money's worth? That certainly was on my mind. And what I discovered was that I got more than my money's worth. And I think that's how anybody coming into this kind of course has to view it. You have to be determined to get your money's worth. You have to dive in and play full out with this. Take it on. I once did a course where at the beginning of the day, they said, rate how much you think you'll get out of this course out of 7, from 1 to 7. And I put 4. They said, and how enthused are you going to, and how this 1 out of 7? You went down asking all these questions about your participation. And then the course leader paused and said, why don't you have 7 out of 7? Why aren't you playing full out? Why aren't you playing to get 7? And that was really going into this course with you. I knew I was going to play full out. I was going to take it on. I was going to try and be on every single phone call if I could, or hear the recording afterwards, and so on. And that's when I got real value out of it. And I think for people who are wondering about the price, I think you have to look and say, you know, here's how much it's going to cost me. What would be worth that to me? What would be worth that to me? To have a month off a year? Boy, that would be more than worth it. Well, that's what I'm playing for now. That's what I want. So having goals that are not just worthwhile, but make the course seem like a bargain, like a huge return on your investment in your time and your...
I'm sorry about that.
I think you have to look at this not as an investment that might pay off, but it has to pay off. It has to pay off, not just enough to justify it. It should, in your mind and with the goals you set for yourself, pay off. The payoff should be huge compared to your investment. You know, I've done courses where afterwards I went, that was pretty good. And I've done other courses, some of them $500, $600, $700, $800. And at the end of, I remember at the end of one course, I said, I would have paid $50,000 for what I got out of this 3-day course. That was the difference it made. And that's the potential. But if you're just trying to get 5% more efficient or whatever, don't play that way. Play all out. I want to double my productivity. I want to have more energy. I want to have, and I suggest you also start looking beyond productivity. You go, what is it you want in your life? I want more time with my wife, my kids, maybe less time with your wife and kids, maybe more time with someone else's wife and kids who are much nicer, whatever it is. You know? And if you're a woman, it's their husband, whatever. I'll leave that up to you.
I've actually had some clients who've told me that it allowed them to have more, actually for Dwayne, it allowed him to have more time to paint. But I've had quite a few clients who were able to give themselves permission to engage in something other than work, like art or something that way. So pretty awesome. Now the phones are all ringing everywhere in this place. It hasn't rung all day. It's just one of those days.
You're popular, darling. You're popular.
So thank you, Rick. I'm really touched that this has made such an impact for you, and I know it'll make an impact for anybody who's actually who's listening to this, because I know it's difficult for people to know what to believe. You know, it's definitely true of people with attention deficit disorder trying to determine what should they invest in. They've invested in so many different programs that just have not panned out for them, and now they're afraid to disappoint. They're afraid to disappoint themselves and other people in their lives, because they've tried so many things and it didn't work. And you sharing this with us and the difference that it made for you is very meaningful to our audiences. So I hope people are listening, and I hope they get that this is a great program. And thank you so much again, Rick. I really appreciate it.